I'm joined now by Lady Vols, Keyen Green. Thank you so much for joining me. Keyen, let's just take it back to the beginning of your life. I mean, you grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What was it like for you growing up in Philly?
I mean, it was fun. It was always fun. I had 3 siblings. I'm the second of 4, so it was always a good time. And we always had, cousins over, friends and family. It was always a big group of us. So, yeah, anything we did was an adventure. So.
And then you went off to Liberty and played for Liberty in Virginia, and then you came here in Knoxville. What was it like coming to Tennessee? Have you ever been to Knoxville before you ended up playing here?
Funny story, actually. Okay, so my sophomore year at Liberty, we won the Big South Conference Championship, 2018. First round, played Tennessee at Tennessee. So that was my first time in Knoxville, first time here. Got to play in TBA with the thousands of Tennessee fans cheering against me. So it's great to finally have them on my side because that was pretty brutal. I want to say we lost by like 40, 50. It was rough. It was rough. But it was our first NCAA tournament, so it was like a great experience, yeah. But that was my first time in Knoxville, so yeah.
So when you ended up going into the transfer portal, you had already been to Tennessee, so is that the highest on your radar of where you wanted to go?
Not at all. They were not on my radar at all, actually. I wanted to have a female coach. That was one of my big things. I didn't want to go any further north than Virginia, than Liberty was. Those were 2 of my kind of biggest things. And so I was actually about to commit to Texas, the other UT. Yeah, the other UT. Karen Aston was the head coach, and when I was calling to commit there, she informed me that their staff had just been let go. So, and this is right after I already told all the other coaches that had offered me, thanks but no thanks, I'm gonna go to Texas. So yeah, then I was kind of like sitting there twiddling my thumbs like, okay, where am I supposed to go now? Because I already told everybody else no. And so 2 or 3 days before that happened, Coach Sully, Jennifer Sullivan, that was here last year, had reached out to my dad about me, but they were kind of late to the game because I had already decided I was going to go to Texas. And Dad was like, well, I had never told them anything, I never responded, so, we can still respond to Tennessee. So it was literally like one door was closed and another was opened. So yeah, it was like so like meant to be. Like I was so at peace with it. I wasn't freaking out or anything that I couldn't go to Texas, where I really wanted to be in Austin, Texas. Like I thought that was going to be an amazing experience. But yeah, I had no regrets, no anxiety about it or anything. I was completely at peace with Tennessee. So.
It all worked out.
It did.
And I think fans would agree that you chose the real UT.
Definitely.
So then coming to Tennessee and then playing in TBA, which you had played in before, was rooted against. Now you're being rooted for. What was that experience like? It
was cool. However, it was COVID still, so there weren't as many fans. So it was kind of like, it was just kind of not what I expected initially. But this year was amazing. Like just being able to play in front of, full capacity, Thompson Bowling Arena. Yeah, it was an experience. Every game is an experience. So it's been so cool.
Yeah, because you think back, COVID seems so far away in a way because we had a basically normal season. And it's so crazy to think that you would know what it was like to play in front of a rambunctious crowd at TBA. Came here, it was scaled back, and then this season, your final season, you were able to experience that. Definitely. That's amazing.
Sure.
Now going back, growing up playing basketball, your dad played at college ball at Waynesburg University. Did he help inspire you to get into the game?
He always loved basketball, but he was very intentional about not pushing us to play, just letting us play whatever we wanted. So I played soccer, I played volleyball, I played lacrosse, I ran track, like we did everything. And so he was very intentional about not, making us play basketball just because it's what he loved. But I think if you asked him, he would not hesitates to say that he loves the fact that I play basketball.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, I think it's been fun for him, being able to see me through this journey, and it's been fun for me being able to go back to him because he knows so much about it. I mean, he played at Waynesburg, and then he coached at one of the satellite campuses of Penn State. So yeah, he knows it through and through, and he loves it, which I don't love it, but knowing that he does, I feel like helps me to do better, doing this for Dad.
Because you have this bond now over basketball.
For sure.
That's awesome. So when did you start playing basketball?
So first organized, I guess rec league, if you consider that organized, was about 7th grade, and I just played for that summer. And that was it. And then got to high school, and the high school coach was like, you're tall, why don't you play basketball? And one of my best friends played, so I was like, you know what, I get to spend time with her, I guess I'll play basketball. So yeah, that's really how it started. And then freshman year, I don't even really remember freshman year, but I was not good. I feel like sophomore year is really when I kind of broke out, kind of started developing my skills and stuff. And then, from there, I kind of realized that this is how I was going to get to college. I was like, okay, they'll pay me to do this, they'll pay for my school, and I'll get a check. Like, okay, let's do it. So we started kind of getting more into the recruiting aspects of everything, because we didn't know anything about being recruited, what it would look like to play basketball at a Division I level. We didn't really know any of that stuff. So it was a learning process for both me and my parents. But yeah, it all worked out.
It all worked out, and that's incredible, the fact that you picked it up so late. I feel like compared to a lot of players who play at this level. And for you to be able to do that, is that special for you now as you look forward, to look back almost and say, hey, I accomplished that? Yeah,
oh, definitely. I mean, to this point, I've been using basketball kind of as the vehicle to get my education paid for, to network, to meet all the different people, especially through the University of Tennessee. There's so many different people that I've met through here. But yeah, looking back, it's like, wow, like I really did something cool, something special that not a lot of people get to do.
Yep, so, 100%. I want to pivot a little bit and something that you accomplished in your college career that I think is really cool. So in 2020, you helped save a life through the Project Life program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it initially started, there was just like a table outside of our library at Liberty. I was walking to class, and one of my teammates called me over to the table because she was working behind it. So I really just went over to chat with her. Wasn't really interested in what the table was offering or what they were doing, but ended up in talking with her, just kind of learning about what Project Life movement was and the Gift of Life program and how it worked and everything. And she was like, well, why don't you just swab and see if you end up matching? So basically, you swab like the inside of your cheeks and then send it off to this lab where they kind of test your DNA and everything. And if you do end up being a match for a patient, then you can either donate stem cells or bone marrow. So they basically, all the patients have a life-threatening blood disease. Through donating, I donated stem cells because bone marrow is more of like a surgical process, and I wouldn't have been able to do that and then recover to play basketball. So going through with the stem cell donation, basically it's the patient's last chance at life. They've tried every other type of treatment and everything, and normally they actually go to family members first to see if they're a match for stem cells. However, for my patient, they were not, and luckily enough, I was. So yeah, we were able to go through with the process. They got me down to Boca Raton, Florida, which is where their donation site is, and basically you get hooked up to a centrifuge, one needle in this arm, one needle in this arm. They kind of spin the blood, separate the stem cells, and then like freeze them or something so they can transport them to the patient. Yeah, and so then basically now she has my entire immune system. So like my allergies, the things.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? It's like, it's a crazy thing to think about. So right now we're kind of in the process of seeing if I can meet her, whether that's via Zoom or in person or, writing letters and stuff. So yeah, hopefully I get to sometime soon.
That would be such a cool moment for you two to meet. So you started the process at Liberty, but did you complete it here at Tennessee?
Yeah, okay. So basically I started it, I swabbed when did I come here? 2020. I swabbed 2019. It took about a year for them to even call me to say you're a match, because basically when you swab, you're just getting into the database. And so then whenever they have a patient that needs a match, then they just search through the database. So when it was about a year later, so probably January, February is when I got the call. And then March is when everything got canceled and we went to quarantine. So I was home when actually we were going through the process. They had to do a bunch of different blood tests to make sure, I was a match. And just kind of verify a whole lot of different things. So then I was actually donating during quarantine. I went down April 2020 is when I actually did the donation. So it kind of worked out perfectly that I was at home and not here practicing or at Liberty practicing. It was like the perfect little sweet spot to be able to do something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, I called Kelly initially because I was like, I can either do this surgical process or donate these stem cells. But either way, there is a drug called Neupogen that they have to inject into you to kind of help your body to make more stem cells so that they can take them, so you're not lacking anything when they do take the stem cells. And so I wanted to include her in the process to let her know, this is what I'm doing. I don't know if this drug is approved. Really, I called her to see, is this drug approved? Am I going to get flagged for it? Because regardless, I'm going to do this to save a life. But she was completely on board with it. So yeah, it was awesome. And then, so I finished. It was kind of like a week process, and I finished kind of a week into April, and then got here in June. So yeah.
Wow. How special is it to be a part of that?
Oh, it's awesome. It's amazing. I told them I'll tell this story till my last breath, because there's no reason that everybody should not be in this database, in the registry, to be able to potentially be a match. Because saving somebody, you don't get to save a life every day. That's something very, very unique and very special.
Wow, that's incredible. So going back to now, your basketball career, this past season, you played in about 19 games, about 4 last year, so that brings you to about 23 total seasons in 2 years, because you had to battle through lots of adversity and injury. But even just playing here and getting the opportunity to finish your career here at Tennessee, what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's amazing. I feel like I figure out more about what it means every day, through the people I meet, through how many people are just impressed that you're a Lady Vol, like that. It holds weight. And kind of everywhere you go. And I didn't realize how far reaching it was. But yeah, it's amazing, especially now in trying to figure out, what's my next step? Where am I going to get a job? And it's like, anywhere. I can get a job anywhere, because everybody knows Lady Vols and everybody respects them and understands, the work ethic that goes into being here and playing at a Division I level. And it speaks about your character. I feel like that you are a Lady Vol. So yeah, I'm figuring out what it means more and more every day. But yeah, it's super special.
What does it mean to be a part of that legacy now for the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. I mean, I feel like even though I didn't have much court time, it doesn't even matter. It just a degree from here, or 2 degrees from here, hopefully, if I finish this one. And then just being with the team that I've been with and the coaching staff that I've been with, it's just because Tennessee's turning around right now. We're in a little bit of a slump, but it's on the up and up now. And I got to be a part of those first few couple years. So yeah, it's super special.
Yeah, what has it been like playing for head coach Kelly Harper?
It's been awesome. I mean, one of the things that I really wanted when I transferred was a coach that would be able to relate to me just as a young woman, which is why I wanted a female coach. And so it's been a lot more than basketball, which is exactly what I wanted. You can talk to her about life. I can go to her about a job. Who can you reach out to that may need somebody to work for them. She brings her kids around. It's really a family environment, and that's exactly what I was looking for in coming here. But yeah, playing for her as a coach, it's been great for me because I ask a lot of questions. You can't just tell me do this because I said so. That was the worst thing growing up, because I said so. But she explains everything. You're doing this because to get this person open, or if this person's not open, you're going to be open. You set the screen here, and she tells you exactly why you're doing what you're doing, and it makes it so much easier to do it for her because you know where you're going. You're not being led blindly. And I think it makes it so much easier to be able to play hard and play with everything because you're all on the same page.
What's one thing that you learned from her that you will take with you now for the rest of your life?
Wow.
And that's a loaded question.
Yeah, right? I think that she's really taught me that it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to get it done. Like, you have to keep going. And I think even through these couple losses that we've taken, that's really been the message, is that it's not going to be perfect. The other team is going to make shots. You're not going to start. It's not going to be 100-0. But it's okay as long as you keep going, as long as you move on to the next play. And a lot of people would put that just in a basketball context, but that's really life. Things are gonna happen, but it's okay, just as long as you keep moving. But when you allow them to stop you is when you've really taken a loss. It's not a loss if you learn from it and you continue to move, but when you allow it to hinder your progress, that's when you've really taken the loss.
I love that. I feel like that's also embodied, you said the past couple of losses, but also just the back half of the season. You guys have had to play through a ton of adversity, including losing you. Yeah. I mean, that was a huge hurdle the team has had to overcome. And for you personally, how tough was that to have that season-ending injury in your final season?
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah. Not necessarily the injury, like the type of injury, but just the fact that I was done and that's how it ended, because nobody imagines their final season ending in injury. But I have no regrets. I feel like I went out there and I played. I did what I was supposed to do. And I'm just so grateful to be with this group of girls, this team. And I know that I have impact beyond the court. So as much as I would want to be out there, playing with them, I know that I still have impact on the bench, being able to get to them in huddles, encourage them in any ways that they need. So I'm really at peace with it at this point, but it took a little bit to get here.
How did you mentally overcome that?
Well, it's not my first injury, right. So that definitely helped. So, did the same exact thing to my right knee last year. Yeah. So in terms of the injury perspective, I knew what I was getting into, right. Kind of knew what the recovery is going to be, knew what the surgery was going to be like. And honestly, I feel like this knee has been easier so far, just the recovery and everything. Definitely, for sure. But also, even before that, I had lateral ligament reconstruction on my ankle. I have a titanium plate in my shin. Like, this is not my first rodeo. No. So in terms of injuries, I just kind of know how to flip the switch in my mind to figuring out, okay, what's next? What can I do? Which goes back to exactly, don't let it hinder you. Keep making progress. What else can I do? Can I be an encouragement? Which ways can I serve the girls that's not on the court? So it's really just been about figuring out how I can use this to serve them, because I feel like when you get injured, if you dwell on yourself too long, that's when you get miserable, and I can't afford to be miserable. So
no, especially not in the final season. Definitely. Either. No. So speaking of that impact that you make beyond the court, I want to read a quick quote that Kelly said about you, about how to senior day. I don't know if you heard this, that she spoke about you like this, but she said, Keyen, you can't really find players that often that have that impact on a program without having played an entire season. It's just an unusual situation, but it speaks to the type of person she is. She has really helped to establish what leadership looks like with our team and our program, and that's going to carry on. We have a lot of young players who have learned from her, and I think she's really carved out what it needs to look like here. So you've had that big of an impact in a small time that you've been here. Hearing that quote from your head coach, what does that mean to you?
I mean, it's special, because like she said, this is not what I planned. I planned to be able to lead by example, lead on the court, lead with what I did, with my stats and everything, especially coming from such a successful career at Liberty. I was, eager to be able to, I guess, prove that I could also do it on this level. But clearly that's not what the Lord had planned for me. But I take comfort in the fact that he had better planned. I got to be able to do more, stretch myself as a leader. Like I said, figure out what else I can do to help, to serve, to encourage, to lead, to guide. And I think that's what she's seeing, is that I figured out a way to make that to still make that impact, because I knew that it's not always about basketball. You know, life is so much bigger. At the end of the day, it's a game. You know, so we put so much into it, and I feel like I have a good perspective in that this is not everything. So I'm able to kind of come from that perspective and lead and guide rather than, you know, basketball. Although that is our lives a lot of the time, you really have to step back sometimes. And I think that's the perspective that I come from, which enables, you know, me to be able to speak to the girls and them listen to me because they understand, you know, I've been through it. When I got here, I was already on my 5th season. So, you know, I'd been through it before.
You've been through it. You've been through a ton of adversity in your career. You played a lot of ball. So how have you helped establish that new leadership, and what does that look like on this team?
I would say service. My big thing is servant leadership, so I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. And I think that goes a long way because people see your actions. They hear what you say, but then they see your actions. And I'm pretty sure mine match up. I'd like to think that they would say that.
From the way that players talk about you, it sounds like it.
So I feel like that's a big thing because a lot of leaders just talk, tell you what to do, you know, more like dictator style. But I feel like there has to be a give and take. It can't just be like me telling you what to do all the time because you're not gonna reciprocate that energy and you're not gonna respect it. So I think it first starts with kind of establishing relationships with the girls, and you know there has to be a level of trust there in order for them to be able to, for you to want to go to war with somebody, you know, between these lines, there has to be some sort of trust there. And so I feel like that's what I used my first year, especially since I got hurt so quickly. I quickly adapted to, okay, let me develop these relationships with the girls so that we can move forward from here. And I feel like that was a big part of the culture, is letting everybody know that we're all on the same page, we're all working towards the same goal. So if there is anything that I need to tell you or, you know, criticize or anything, it's coming from a place of love and a place of me wanting you to get better, because that's going to help our team get better. And I think once you kind of establish that intentionality and that everybody's intentions are good, because I feel like you can't just assume that. You would like to, but you can't just assume that everybody's intentions are good. But I think that now we've gotten to the point where we know if I'm telling you something, it's for the better of yourself and for the better of our team. And
you mentioned wanting to go to war with each other. You've seen that in this team all season long. You guys you guys have talked about it multiple times, the players and coaches. The team, they want to play for each other, top down. It's all going to war for each other, which is great. Have you seen that more this season, even compared to last year?
Definitely, no question. And I think that's why I felt like I took that position so early to try to develop those relationships, because I saw that it wasn't going that way so much last year. So I was like, okay, if I'm hurt now and going to be here another year, let me set this foundation so that we can continue to build on it. And so I feel like that's really what my role was last year, to help set that foundation of trust and of loyalty to each other so that we can continue to build on it. And no question that this year it's been 10 times better than last year in terms of just wanting to do your best for the girl next to you, not for your own accolades.
Looking at the SEC tournament, not the way you guys wanted to end, falling to Kentucky, but what are some things you think the team learned that can help now as you prepare for the NCAA tournament?
I think they've kind of gained a sense of urgency because there's no more chances. You know, you lose, you go home. And I think us losing and going home in the SEC tournament is what kind of gave us that sense of urgency. So, I think they understand that the things that we've been saying all year in our halftime talks, we actually need to make those adjustments. You know, there's no more coming back from behind in the second half. You know, we're a second half team, like, no, do it in the first half. You know, get ahead instead of falling behind. So I feel like those are just a couple of the little things, and it's a lot of little things really that kind of add up to these big losses. So I think we've kind of taken hold of those little things and kind of made it personal, that each person needs to improve and get better in these little areas in order for us to do what we're saying we want to do.
You talk about those halftime speeches. Everybody got a glimpse of what sometimes how they could go. Head coach Kelly Harper had quite the inspired halftime speech. I can't remember exactly what game it was after.
Arkansas. During Arkansas.
Yeah, the SEC showed a glimpse of that. When the team is down heading into halftime, is that typically how head coach Kelly Harper is? Or
I got that question a lot.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, she knows what we need and when we need it. So she knows when we need more of a kick rather than a nudge, so to speak. But yeah, she knows exactly when to turn on, when to turn off. So, you know, even in huddles, sometimes she'll turn it on real quick and then turn it off, and we'll be good. You know, she just really has a good gauge of us and what we respond to and how we take things. And so she knows when she needs to and when she doesn't. That game we needed it. So I feel like, it's not a every game type of thing, but
situational.
She knows when we need it.
Yeah, but when she has those fiery halftime speeches, I mean, more times than not, it seems like you guys come out of the second half and the team plays inspired.
Yeah.
And to see her passion just as a player, whether it's a no call, bad call, like you mentioned, she knows when to turn it on and off, but just to see that passion from a coach, what does that mean to you guys as players?
I love it. That was another thing I felt like I was looking for when I came here, was a coach that will fight for you. One of my old coaches told me, like, I've never heard a complaint change a call, which, you know, is pretty accurate. You know, you're not, as much as you harp on the refs, they're not going to just go change the call. But it still means something as a player to know that they're just as fired up as you are about the call, and they're going to go to war for you about it. You know, it's not just us between these lines. You know, we'll take care of what's out here, but she'll still keep getting on them. And yeah, it means a lot. It really does. It kind of just shows the care. Not that coaches that don't yell at the refs don't care, but it's like a visual, you know, you get to see it, you know?
Visual affirmation.
Exactly, yes. A visual affirmation. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yes. So looking back at your career at Tennessee, I know there's still plenty of ball for the team to play, but just looking back on your specific career, what has been one of your, and it's still going, right? I mean, you still just have a different role in the team right now. What has been your favorite memory or moment, let's say just from this past season?
I think the Texas win. Yeah, I don't love basketball. I love playing with this group of girls, and I love, you know, working my hardest to not let them down. And I'm really competitive, so I don't like to lose, and I feel like that's what drives me, and that's enough. But I felt like during that game, like, that was probably the most fun I've had playing basketball in a really long time. And so, and it wasn't because it's basketball. It was because of those girls that I was with. It was because, you know, everybody was making plays, everybody was rooting for one another, you know, and it was just a very unique situation. And so, yeah, that was definitely hands down my favorite moment, because I just remember having so much fun and feeling like, wow, I actually do enjoy this. Like, I may not love it, but this, like, it's paid off. You know, this is why we do it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Looking forward for you, I believe you're working on your PhD. Right? Oh man, what are you working on in school? What is the PhD going towards?
So it's a PhD in leadership studies, which could go any number of ways, really. It falls under the School of Education here at University of Tennessee, so that's kind of what most classes are geared towards, is, you know, becoming a principal or a dean or a chancellor. That I don't think is in my future. However, this was the only leadership PhD that there was. So, but I feel like I've learned so much even through this program, because it's such a different perspective coming from the world of academia versus the world of athletics. Yeah. So, but going forward, I'm not sure. I know I want to finish it, and I know I don't want to pay to finish it, so I'm going to figure out, you know, who can pay for me to finish this degree. Exactly. So that's first step, I think. Obviously need to figure out where I'm going to get paid from, so I guess that's the next step, figuring out a job, figuring out how to finish this degree without paying for it. But those are my two main kind of goals to tackle right now.
So moving forward after the PhD, university, though, is there a route you specifically want to go? I know you and I talked about coaching, possibly, athletic director. Is there any way that you're leaning a little bit towards, or kind of open right now?
I'm open. Yeah, and I'm fortunate that my education has given me this many options so that I can be open, so that I'm not kind of pigeonholed into one way. But I can see myself doing all of it, you know, maybe coaching for a few years, maybe getting into athletic administration, maybe moving away from athletics as a whole. But yeah, I have no clue where yet. Still trying to figure that out one step at a time.
So you are part of you and Jordan Walker are part of this, so you want to be a coach program.
Yeah.
And I believe the clinic starts at the end of March, beginning of April. So are you looking forward to that?
Oh, for sure. And I do think that those seminars and those conversations and those like networking with the people there will give me more of an idea of if coaching is something that I want to do. But they also have more seminars focused on just like athletic administration. So I'm hoping that, that conference as a whole will give me a little bit more clarity about what it means to be in athletic administration or be a coach, so I can kind of make more of a concrete decision about where I want to go. But I've heard that it's a really good program in terms of starting out. So, you know, an opportunity may come from there that I wasn't even thinking about. So definitely looking forward to that. That's
awesome. Pivoting really quickly back to the SEC tournament, what was Kelly Harper's message to the team following that loss to Kentucky?
She was saying that it's a lot of little things, you know, just didn't make enough plays, but they're not things that we can't fix. And then I think she said this in the presser, actually, how her team lost in the second round of SECs also, and then went on to win a national championship. So not that it doesn't matter, but it's not something to sit and dwell on. You know, we still have work to do. We have 2 weeks to get better before, you know, we need to start again. So yeah, that was really her message.
After hearing that story about her playing days and how they were able to do that, do you think that inspired the team? Maybe give a little bit of comfort in a way?
Definitely comfort, because, you know, those types of losses are gut-wrenching, especially when we're talking to each other about how we're going to win the SEC championship. So, yeah, definitely comfort, a little bit of closure, I guess you could say. But there's more work to do is really what it ended up with. There's more work to do.
Yeah, do you think this team is now hungry entering the NCAA tournament?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And like I said, we have the urgency. We understand that there's no more chances. You know, we have to make those adjustments. We have to fix those mistakes. And she really said that the margin of error as you go on further gets smaller and smaller. So you just, not only do we need to fix the mistakes, but you just can't have some mistakes. Some of them they're too costly when it comes to tournament games. So I think those are the adjustments that, you know, during this week of practice, we're really focusing on and honing in on.
Awesome, thank you so much.